Hi guys, and welcome back to another IBRACORP video. As usual, it's an absolute delight to have you guys back here. Thank you for choosing to spend time to click on the video and watch our video today. We really appreciate it, so thanks for your time. This week we've got something a little bit different for you. We're going to be looking at an application called FileFlows. And typically when we're approached by developers in our community, we like to review the content, review what the application is, and see whether it fits our community and our fans and what they're looking for. And I can tell you for sure that I think this is a great application that will really benefit you guys. This is not a sponsored piece, this is completely our own opinion, of course. Now in today's video, we're going to be showing you the Unraid installation. If you're using Docker, then it doesn't matter what platform you're on, they have all the supported platforms here. You've also got Windows, Linux, Mac OS, you've got Raspberry Pis, Docker of course, and Unraid listed too. So while we are going to show you the Unraid one, that's for our Unraid fans, we're purely doing that for our fans today. We're going to be showing you the Unraid installation. But once we get it up and running, doesn't matter what platform we've actually installed it on, we can go through the config and the UI together. If you need more instructions, they're all here of course. You can go on their main website, they've got a wiki as well. And a big thank you to the developer Revan, who has given me some input on the application and some helpful information to share with you guys to help you understand what it can do for you and why you should give it a go. If you enjoy what we're doing and you like our videos and our content, please think about liking and subscribing. It really helps us out, and feel free to support us on our website by becoming a member. All the donations go directly back into our work to help improve the quality of content that we provide you. So without further ado, let's just get stuck into it. Alright guys, so thanks for coming in this week. Really appreciate having you guys here. And like I said, we just want to do something a little bit different today. We've done some really heavy networking and media optimization stuff the past few weeks, and I think we've covered that pretty well. And next week we'll actually be collaborating with the awesome open source channel, Brian over at that channel. He's featured on our channel as well. We've done many videos with Brian and he's been around for a while, so be sure to show him some love if you're interested. We can't wait to do that collaboration for you. It'll be an interesting little project, I think. But in terms of our video today, we are looking at FileFlows. Now, you might be wondering what exactly is FileFlows. So the description here on their website, easily monitor and process files using easy to use rules. Let's scroll down a little bit and we'll look at the features that are advertised. For one, we can have a pattern renamer. So we can rename our files based on a expression or simple text rules. Might be handy, especially if you're not using something like Sonar Radar specific media. You might be wanting to rename bulk amount of files and other content on your server. This is going to help you do that. They have video conversion, so you can convert your videos into a specific format to make sure they play back on all your devices. Now that goes to something similar to what we did last week when we discussed really fine-tuning our Sonar and Radar instance so that we get the content we want in the formats that we want using Trashers guides and Notifier. However, in the event that you don't want to have to search for that content again, you may want to then instead change the quality of the content you have or change the format of the content that you already have. Now keep in mind that when you take something as a source, if it's a particular format, once you start messing with it, you are essentially messing from that source format that you got it in. So I can't guarantee the quality will always be the same, but from the words of the developer himself, the FFmpeg builder is very, very powerful. It's pretty powerful. You can basically do any file and it'll process it anyway, not just videos. And it's just a matter of writing a plugin for it. So then users can provide feedback and requests, and that will really help improve that plugin for the community. So if you have any feedback, donations, you want to support them, they've got the Patreon link up in the top here as well. You can find their GitHub here as well. The website itself is fileflows.com. We then can monitor folders, so we can monitor them and automatically apply processing rules to files. So as soon as something drops in a particular folder, you can have FileFlows process that for you. This one, which I thought was interesting, or these next two actually, removing black bars. So it can automatically detect and remove black bars from videos, which I think is really cool. The next part is removing commercials. So automatically remove commercials from videos or create chapters for each commercial. We've all been there. We've had some sort of content that's had commercials pumped into it, which is really not ideal, especially when it's your own content. We just hate them. So that's an awesome feature, I think, there as well. Now, another thing the developers mentioned to me that there's a failure flow, which allows you to execute a flow to notify you if a flow fails, ironically enough. So you can have multiple processing nodes, let's say, to share the workload, all right? You might have 10 different servers here. You can import and export the flows to share them, which is also helpful for support. The plugin browser lets you download and update additional plugins. So it has basically a plugin library, if you will. You can also do scheduling, so you can schedule when a processing node can process or when a library should process. You also have the ability to auto-update server from the web and auto-update external processing nodes from the server. So if you upgrade the server, you have external processing nodes. You don't have to manually update those nodes. The server will push the changes to those nodes, which is really cool. You've got custom JavaScript functions as well, so you can use a powerful JavaScript function node to run custom code inside of a flow. You've also got audio normalization, so I'm sure you guys are familiar with this issue. You might have one episode of something at 70% volume, and then for some reason the next episode's 150% volume. And you're basically playing jockey with the remote all day and all night, trying not to wake up your kids or whatever the case might be. At least that's in my case. I'm always messing with the remote so that I don't wake up the kids. Let me tell you guys, if you don't have kids, you will end up becoming the most paranoid person ever, trying not to wake them up if you haven't slept in a while. I can tell you that from experience. Now, for the last two notes here, we've got the ability to remux videos to MP4/MKV. So remux them and add them to a common container. We also have the ability to compress folders, so we can automatically compress all files in a folder using a smart pattern naming convention. Pretty cool. So those are just some of the features. Like it says, just some of the features. It actually can do a lot more, but these are some really important highlights that are important to note for the video. One final thing that's been given to me by Revan as well is if you go over to their Reddit, which is reddit.com/r/FileFlows, there's a good change set of things added under the version posts. So that'll give you an idea on things that are constantly changing. There's very, very heavy development. If you look on the GitHub, you'll see that it's updated very frequently. It's really good to see from a developer. Much love to our friends over in New Zealand. I believe that's where Revan is as well, our neighbor in New Zealand. So thank you for allowing us to do a video on your application today and working with me to get some ideas out there for the community. Really appreciate that. So those are the highlights. How about we actually go into installing it real quick? It won't take us long at all, and then we'll be able to jump in the application. I'll be able to show you a few things as well. Now, if you're interested on the main website, without having to install it, you can go and check out the demo. There's a link to a demo there, demo.fileflows.com. But I think since we're going to show you how to install it and run it, we'll just have a look ourselves. So next step, let's get installing it on Unraid. And here we are on our beautiful Osiris. What a lovely beast this is. And many things have changed. At the moment, Unraid is actually being virtualized on our Proxmox server. A few people have asked us about a video covering the latest version of Unraid. And look, we have reviewed that, and unfortunately, I don't feel like it's in a place at the moment to do a video on it. There has been a lot of reports of issues with the current version. And in that case, I can't really recommend it because that would go against our own personal reputation. But what I can tell you is that 6.9.2 has been working flawlessly since day one at the moment. So I would say if you are going to use Unraid, stick with 6.9.2 for the moment, unless you feel comfortable and confident in going up in a version. But for the moment, this works exactly as it is. We don't need to change anything. So what we'll do is head over to the App Store and we'll type in FileFlows, which will give us two options here. We've got the FileFlows and we've got the FileFlows node. So let's start with FileFlows. Let's click on that and we can see all the stats there. That's fine. Here's Revan. He's the developer, so feel free to support him there if you like as well. And we'll go into install. Now there's a bit of a description here which will give you an idea on what needs to happen. Now what you might be seeing with the FileFlows node, just to explain to you. Now if you have just one server and that's going to be doing all the work, you have no need for the additional node. This is an additional node. So the FileFlows application here is the server and the single internal node built in. If, however, let's say you had another 3 servers around your house, or not even at your house, whatever the case might be, I don't know, you just wanted to set up a node. You don't want it to also be a server, you have the option here. So you would just come and install the node and connect that to your existing server. So in here, we'll go to install, and it's going to take us to our container template. Pretty straightforward. There's nothing too crazy going on here. Let's just go through our usual step. So what we want to do is put it on our custom Docker network. We'll put it on IBRACORP and just have a quick read of this to make sure we're doing everything correctly. And something you will note is for NVIDIA GPU setup, you've got some additional instructions there, guys. We'll quickly click on the link and it will show you what needs to be done. You've got the NVIDIA driver, take the GPU ID. In the extra parameters, we put in the runtime, NVIDIA, and then you add these additional variables as well. So then we've got the time zone, which obviously just put to your time zone wherever you are. I'm gonna say Australia, Melbourne. The web UI configured here is 8585, so change that if required. Under the data location, it obviously maps to our app data, file flows, and then data. Then we have a logs folder in there as well. And then we have a temp directory. So this is where temporary files will be created during the file flow process. It's best to put this on a cache drive or a faster SSD NVMe. So naturally we want that on the cache, and as you can see by default, it's going to the cache, okay, as opposed to MNT user. And that means it'll always remain on the cache as well. Really important, especially if you're using Unraid. Then you have a media folder here. Mapping to a folder in Unraid. This is optional and you can add as many as you like. So for the moment, I'm just going to leave it as MNT user. It doesn't matter to me because this is virtualized. But if you want to set it to something like media, go ahead and do that. Now, once we're happy with all that, go ahead and click apply and we'll start the container up. Now, while that's installing on our Unraid server, I just wanted to show our members who are using Docker instead of Unraid. Revan has got the Docker command line and all the templates that you can use here as well. So if you prefer to use command line, you've got that here. You've got the Docker template. Should you want to use Compose, and you've also got it with the NVIDIA hardware encoding as well. So thank you for supplying that, Revan. That's going to help a lot of people out. So if you're not using Unraid, you're just using Docker on one of our Ubuntu systems that we've shown you in the previous videos. Here's your Docker Compose file right there. So you go ahead and use that. Okay, so we come back, we see the container's finished. Let's click done and we'll head over to Docker. In Docker, we can see the containers running down here. Let's left click that and go to the web UI. And as soon as we do that, we see that we're in the configuration step. So it says it's not yet configured. You have not yet configured any flows or libraries. So it tells us basically step one, create a flow. So let's get started. Let's go into step one, go into flows. I really like this sort of, beginner step through to set you up. I really like that. So great work there. Let's click on add. And it's going to give us a template here. So select a template to base the flow on. This will help you get started with a flow. That's really cool. I like that. So it gives you somewhere to start if you have no idea what you're doing. So let's go into the template, and why don't we go with, oh wow, there's some really interesting. Let's just pick file. We'll leave it at file, name it as file as well, just for testing purposes. A blank file template with a single input file input node. Click add. And here we go. So here we've got this sort of layout, and this is what makes it really cool. It makes it visually appealing to build the process that you're going to be running, a flow chart, if you will. So first we have the input file, and if we read down here, it tells you what's going on. So an input node for a library file. This is required, and it's the starting point of a flow. So any input node can be used, but just one is required. What I might do is click close actually, and we'll add another one. And this time I'll pick one like convert video. The video codec, we're gonna say, I want to put it into H.264. And the audio codec, I will say AC3. I have no idea whether that's gonna be the best option, guys. So it's not a recommendation, I'm just picking it for this video. Do we wanna crop black bars? Let's say yes. Let's say I know for a fact that this particular content that I have has black bars in it and I want them removed. We will just click that. Go ahead and click add. And now we have this here, as you can see, convert video. It's templated for us, but let's go to edit. So should you decide that you wanted to go with the template option, you've got the steps laid out for you. If you go with the manual option and you just pick a starting node, then you will draw this out yourself. But let's have a look what it's doing. Under video file, so output one, video file from library. That makes sense. Go to this step, check the black bars. Any template, you can pick a template here as well. Outputs 2. So check for black bars. If there's a black bar, detect the black bar. We'll go into this step. What's this one doing? Output 1, black bars detected. Output 2, not detected. threshold is 10. So the amount of pixels that must be greater than to crop. Okay, keep that in mind. This is stuff that you will need to fine tune depending on your content. You then have the next step, which is to encode that video. So let's have a look at that step. We can see that it's video codec 264. We've got the codec. We've even got a language option and then the extension that we wish to use as well. So we don't have to have it a single format. We can change that to something else like, I don't know, let's say MP4. Click save. And then it comes down to the last step, which is to replace our original file. Now guys, keep in mind, this is a very detailed application. We can sit here all day if we want to. We're not going to do that in this video. I'm giving you the intro, the rough overview, let you have a look how you can get started with it. But if you want to mess around with it even more, I highly recommend you read the wiki, because you could sit here all day, like I said, fine tuning and customizing every little step. It really depends on what you want to do with it. So it's almost impossible for me to cover every possible scenario. But this is the workflow essentially of how you could get that going. Now, remember in the second step to set this up, it was to set up a library. So let's go to libraries. Oh, sorry, won't discard our changes. We'll click save, we'll close, and then we'll go to libraries. So the second step is we need to add a library. Let's click add. And the template is a video library. Let's pick that. But have a look at this. We've also got SAB NZBD or samples, trailers, previews, for example, Plex DVR. Remember, these are templates. We don't have to use them, but I'm going to go ahead and pick video library. So the path is /media/video. Does that make sense to you though, where you've mapped it in your container settings? If you have a look at our container mappings here, because I've mapped it to the user folder in our container template, it's going to show me everything underneath. Now I currently don't have a media library on here at the moment. So what I can do is just go app data. That's fine. App data, and then probably Reven, and then FileFlows. Okay, now in here, we'll click select. We'll select FileFlows, and then I might even just add another one underneath and say videos. So that'll create that for us. Do we have folders underneath? So if this library so this is a toggle to say if this library monitors folders. If off, which is the default, the library will monitor files. Only use this to process a directory in flow. So we're not going to toggle that. So basically we want to leave it as that for now. The library will monitor files. If we want it to monitor folders, then we probably want to have a specific folder for that purpose, I would imagine. Under flow, you can see which flow do we want this library to be attributed to. So let's say the convert video one. The priority, I'm going to say it's pretty high. In the top, we then have these tabs. So we can go to schedule. So we can say, I only want you to run on, during these times. And I like this kind of scheduler. This reminds me of the old school sort of torrent applications or, things along those lines, which is really cool. And what you're seeing is a way to schedule those times. So that'll give you a better way to manage your resources and make sure your server isn't being hammered during peak use. Next thing is we have advanced. So here we have the option to set those expressions, like I told you earlier. Now this is an optional filter regular expression to run against matching files. This filter will be run against the full absolute file name of the file. Something worth noting if you're using the file naming conventions that are provided by someone like Trash or by us in our videos on home media automation. So we can scan to make sure that new content is picked up. I'm going to go ahead and toggle that to yes. And let's say 120 seconds. I don't want it to scan too often, but that should be okay. And the file detection interval 5. So the amount of times and seconds to wait. Now, as you guys saw, this is the advanced tab. So you don't have to mess with all this stuff if you don't want to. You could have just stopped here and possibly the scheduler and you'd be fine. I'm going to go ahead and click save. Now we have a library and we have a flow. Now let's go down to nodes and you'll see that this is the internal node. So this is the one in our server that we've just launched. We haven't had to add any additional ones. But if you had a node set up on another server, you can go ahead and add it. Add the address, whether that's IP or host name, enable it, and you can map all these other features to it as well. So you can have them all working together, essentially, even if it's in another country, if you wanted to. Now, so far, that's pretty cool. If we just go back to the dashboard, We see that it says it's waiting for a file to process. We don't have a file in there. That's fine. What I might do is get a file and we'll see what it does once we put it in. So give me a second. Okay, so I've got Big Buck Bunny downloading, so we can put that in there, which is a open source file. There's no copyright that we have to worry about. So we'll put that in there and we'll show you how that works once it's done. So in the meantime, I'll show you the last bit of features that we've got. Let's go into the plugins section. So if we want to go to plugins, this is essentially, if you will, the heart of what we can do with this system, because it will allow you to expand what you can do with it, and it will allow other developers to also pitch in and provide additional plugins or improve plugins that are already there. So feel free, guys, if you know what you're doing, help support the project by contributing some information there. We'll go on to add, and you can see there's a couple of things here that already seem pretty cool. So this one here is Plex. Let's see what that does. Nodes 2, the Plex plugin that lets you update Plex with any changes. So once we have a file being changed, it's been re-encoded, whatever the case might be, it can go and trigger the Plex to go and rescan the file, so to make sure that it's got the most up-to-date version. You also have the ability to do Discord messages, so we can do that, email, MB, meta nodes. So a plugin contains meta information used to look up meta information on files. Pretty handy. You also have the ability to check against collections, app rise, whatever the case might be. So you have a whole bunch of different things that we can do here. Just for the purpose of simplicity, let's just pick the Plex one and we'll click on download. Then we'll close this, and here we can see the Plex one is there. Let's go to edit, and here we go. So you can then put your Plex server in, your Plex token, and what you want to map it to. Underneath plugins, we also have tools. So in the tools section here, you've got the FFmpeg, again, a very powerful part of the application. You can also add more as well if you have any more tools you want to add there. And then we have the settings tab as well. So telemetry, if you want to share some of that information on development, you can. We can also turn that off if you wish. Auto update. Not sure if it's recommended to do this from within the container since we're using a Docker container. I'll have to check that out. But you've also got the ability to auto update plugins, which obviously would be good. And we can also auto update our nodes. So if you have multiple nodes connecting, we probably want them to auto update. So we'll check that and we'll click save. Under advanced, we have our plugin repository. So if you have additional plugins that aren't necessarily built into the app, we can put those repositories in here and pull them in. And as it says, if multiple repositories contain the same plugin, the first repo will be used as its source. And then you have the settings for the internal node. Now this is the node, as we said, that it comes with the server, and you can configure a couple of things there. So like a global schedule for when it can work and when it shouldn't work. Then you've got your logs. You've also got statistics, and then you can go to help as well. So guys, the video is done. I'm just going to copy it onto the server now. So I'm connected to our share that we configured already on Unraid, and I've just dropped that file in there. All right. So now let's come back to here and let's see what this does. It says it last scanned a minute ago. Let's click rescan and trigger that immediately just to see what comes through. Now, if we go to statistics, you'll see that it's actually starting to work now. So it's starting to detect a couple of things, which is cool. Nothing in the logs, but the statistics are there, so that's interesting. If we come back to the flows, one of the other things that I was mentioning to you as well, once you've customized and built a flow, you might want to just export that to save it or move it to another server. You can easily do that by selecting it and clicking on export, and the same again for importing it on the other server. Now you can see if we go to library files, unprocessed is blank, but processed is 1. So it's actually already converted this for us, which happened almost instantly at 8 seconds. So I think that has also something to do with the fact that I'm not passing through a GPU or the Intel QuickSync directly, but it did pick it up, which is great. So let's click on view for a second and we'll see what it's picked up on that file. We can see with the info, the original size was 434 meg. The final size is 432. Obviously the settings that I've set it to are pretty similar to what the original source file was anyway. So that's probably part of the issue. You can see that it already was an MP4. Did it do the encode? So it's done that. It's detected black bars, output 2. When we go to log, we can see clearly exactly what's happened with the file as well. So look how detailed those logs are. to really give you some information on what exactly is going on with the file. Really, really important. Now guys, that's just one example. Like I said, that's converting a video file. You can see how easily that is, which all we had to do was drop the file in there. Sure enough, it just showed up. Now that means you can add folders such as those from SAB, NZBD, or whatever the case might be, so that you have a workflow of content being picked up and then dropped into the ultimate media folder later. But it can do way more than that. If you go back to the flows and you click add, just from the templates that we could see, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do here. Let's say, just for the sake of the video, we go to image file, click add. What's the image file going to do? Let's go through the list now on a manual step, just to show you how many options you've got. I mean, have a look at all this. So don't worry about video nodes. We won't worry about that, but we've got FFmpeg nodes here as well. Do you want 10-bit bitrate, codecs, video scaling, audio changes, adding audio tracks? We can do that. Media management, Plex Analyze and Plex Updater. You know what I mean? So we can do that. We've got music nodes for audio, and then we have images. So since we're starting with an image file, what do we want it to do? Now, the other one that's important that I mentioned earlier that was noted by Revan as well is the flow failure. So we have the basic flow failure here. Well, let's click that. And it's a flow that will be executed when a flow fails unexpectedly. Let's click add. Here we have the flow failure. What do we want it to do? Let's put in a function. And function, of course, being one of the other most important node features or flow features of the application. Because you can write in JavaScript, you have a lot more power and control. We're not going to write anything for this one, but you have the option there. Now, once you really put the application to its limits, you'll start seeing a lot more statistics, a lot more information, especially if you're trying to save space, for example, moving stuff to a different encode, and it'll give you all this on your fancy little dashboard. And finally, just to show you what a fully fledged server may look like, here's the demo page that I was telling you about earlier. So this gives you a bit more of an idea on exactly how it could look once you use it fully, once you really use it fully. So we've got our storage saved, for example, recently finished files will show up in there as well. You've got a nice little dashboard section here showing you what's going on with the remote node. We've got library files. So you can see one's processing, 10 processed, 10 failed. We've got our flows, all the different kind of flows. Do we want them enabled? Why don't we edit one and just see what it's doing? Video file, detect black bars. The video to 265, move it, and then delete the source. It makes sense, especially when it's laid out like this. It's a lot easier to work with. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. That one is FileFlows by developer Revan. Again, thank you to the developer for working with us on a video. If you're a developer of an application you'd like us to showcase to our members and our community, be sure to get in contact with us on Discord. If you want to have a chat with us on Discord, just join anytime, guys. We would love to have you there. And please think about supporting our work as well. We would really appreciate it. We've got some merch ideas coming up pretty soon. We've been working on some stuff to help get some really fun merch out there. And we want to try and give away a lot of things like stickers. So bear with us while we work the details of that out. But we are looking forward to sharing more on that soon. A like and a subscribe goes a long way. And thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate you coming in and checking out the video. We can't wait to see you in the next IBRACORP video.